Hello, everyone. This is Karima Boughris. I'm a student at Chabot College. I'm currently enrolled in electronics system technology class. And today I'm making my presentation for the ESYS 57D class. And my project is titled Raspberry Pi Weather Station. So why am I creating weather station? Why am I creating this project? So due to the different weather condition from one area to another way in the Bay Area, especially in the area where I live, I wanted to be well informed about these weather changes. And that's why I decided to make this weather station project. And therefore, this project, I'm using my Raspberry Pi and the Sense Hat. So for the hypothesis, after all hardware and software part will be assembled and installed, I will try to demonstrate how the Raspberry Pi and the Sense Hat will track and control the temperature, humidity, and the pressure values in the area where I live. As I said, I live in Lake Merritt in Oakland, and display the temperature only on the LED matrix of the Sense Hat. So for my Raspberry Pi and Sense Hat definitions, for this part, I would like to take a look at what is a Raspberry Pi and why I'm using it, and what is the Sense Hat. So as everybody knows, the Raspberry Pi is a small computer that runs Linux. However, it has these general purpose input and output pins, which are used, which allows us to control several types of electronic components. The Pi is functioning by inserting a pre-formatted SD card, and then we program it and we insert it into the SD slot. Connect into any type of the monitor screen via an HDMI cable, then power it up, and by using a wireless keyboard and mouse, we can communicate between the Pi and the monitor screen. So for the Sense Hat, what is the Sense Hat? The Sense Hat is hardware attached on top, and is an add-on board for the Raspberry Pi made by Pi Mission, and it is functioning by sensing the temperature and humidity and barometric pressure from these sensors and display them on the LED matrix, LED screen. Okay, so if we would talk about the materials and what are the procedures that I took to make this project. So for the materials, we obviously need a Raspberry Pi with SD card, an HDMI cable, and a power supply. We need an Pi Sense Hat. We need I'm using my 10-inch Yo-Yo monitor screen, a Logitech Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse. And I'm using enclosure. It's a zebra case that I'm using to protect my Raspberry Pi and the Sense Hat. We need to open an account with the local Weather Underground weather station, and we need a Python 3 to run the program. So for the procedures that I made is it is dependent on several parts. The part number one is Raspberry Pi installation and configuration. First, we need to download the knobs v33 into our computer, and then formatted my 16 gigabyte mini SD card and copied the whole file into it. And then I removed my SD card from the computer and inserted into the Raspberry Pi slot, and then connected the Raspberry Pi with the 10-inch Yo-Yo LCD screen using HDMI cable. And then I power up the Raspberry Pi using the power supply. And then I followed some few steps to accomplish the Raspbian software installation on configuration using a wireless keyboard and mouse. The second part to do this project is opening an account with Weather Underground Weather Station. So for here, I joined the account, and after finishing the steps like enrolling, entering your personal information and everything, I got up to have a station ID and station key. These both elements we need to use them in my Python programming, and with these two keys, I will be able to monitor this temperature and pressure and humidity in the place where I live. So another part is assembling the hardware. So it's basically mounting the Sense Hat on top of the Raspberry Pi and the Zebra case. And then the part number 4 is upgrading the configuration of my Raspberry Pi. So once everything is set up, we need to upgrade our Raspbian and expand the files to be able to run the program. So for this, I entered these command lines into Python programs, and then I finished setting up my Raspberry Pi. Another part of my project is installation of the project software. Basically, in here, I was entering a bunch of commands through Python, and once everything is downloaded to the program, the Sense Hat will actually finally can read these values and display them on the monitor screen. Okay. And then for the diagrams, here I'm showing the weather station block diagram, which includes basically the big square is representing my Raspberry Pi. The small screen is presenting the Sense Hat, which is attached on top of my Raspberry Pi. And so we need a power supply to power up the Raspberry Pi. And then we need Logitech. I'm using Logitech wireless keyboard. So we need a wireless keyboard and a mouse to be able to communicate between the monitor screen and the Raspberry Pi. For this, I'm using the unifying device that it was included in the Logitech keyboard, and inserted in one slot of the USB port of my Raspberry Pi. And with the HDMI cable, I connected my screen monitor to the Raspberry Pi. So basically, this schematic is showing the steps that I followed to set up my Raspberry Pi on my Sense Hat. Okay, so for data, here I will show a bunch of pictures and materials that I used to accomplish this project. It takes a while to open up all these. Yeah, so for this picture, I permitted myself Mr. Code to do it. So it's this picture go back to the November 13th when you took like a really challenging action when we went to the place and pick up all these materials. And here is the kit that we got from you to do this project. Here is the Raspberry Pi with the power supply. Here is the wireless keyboard and monitor screen. So for these pictures is showing the steps for setting up a Raspberry and Raspberry onto the Raspberry Pi. So here is the configuration of my Raspberry Pi. For these pictures is showing the steps that I took to open a personal weather station account. Here is setting up my Sense hat on top of the Raspberry Pi. And for these last pictures is showing the closure, the zebra case that I used to protect my Raspberry Pi and the Sense hat. So here is I'm attaching the code that I used or actually downloaded to make this project, to configure the Raspberry Pi and the Sense hat. It is a really long code, like it takes like 2 to 3 pages. It is a really long code. So after configuring the Pi, rebooting it and everything, and I got the result working, so I went back to my Weather Underground personal account, and I opened it, and I was reading the temperature, the humidity, and the pressure just in the area where I live. And then I compared them with those results from my Raspberry Pi and Sense hat, and they are pretty much the same. So for the temperature is like, for here, I can see it's 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and here it's 77.8. So it's pretty much the same. And for the pressure, here is showing 30.13, and here I can see it's 30.3. So, and for the humidity, here is showing 36 degrees and percent, and here I can see it's between 29 and 30%. So pretty much they are similar results. Okay, so here for the data for analysis and conclusion. What did I learn from this project? So it is a very interesting project to me. So since we are like experiencing crazy life conditions, we are quarantined, and we cannot go outside to ask for help or something in the project if we need to troubleshoot something or anything. So being able to accomplish this one, it's really interesting to me. So for my learning from this project, the first step is I learned designing the project. In this step, I was creating an outline for my project, gathering all the parts that I need, and assemble them. And it wasn't that hard part because I have everything ready in my hand, so it wasn't very like hard part. Building the project, it was a really fun part, like being able to see you realize on your project, and it's not only paper and I mean ink on the paper, just writing the code and this and that. Being able to see your project, you're realizing the project it's really important to me. So the programming and troubleshooting was the hard part for me, because at the beginning I ran through many troubleshooting. Troubleshooting the project at the program at the beginning was not working, and then it took me a really while to make the corrections and to see what's going on, and to get really in touch between the program and the Raspberry Pi. The programming was the hard part of this project. Okay, so for applications, the Raspberry Pi weather station is a useful project that anyone can create and help people to control and be well informed about the weather conditions in the place where they live. And it can be designed for indoors and outdoors purposes. So if you want to set it in indoors, you can. If you want to do it outdoors, you can also. The only thing you need is to protect your Sense hat on Raspberry Pi. Make like a protective closure to protect your Raspberry Pi and Sense hat from the outside environmental conditions. The first project was designed to be sent into space and be used by astronauts on the International Space Station. So this is the first project that Raspberry Pi and Sense hat was designated for. Okay, so for work cited here, I'm showing the different links that I used for configuration of the Raspberry Pi, the Sense hat, and the Raspberry Pi weather station links that I followed to open up weather account with the weather station underground. And here the mounting of the zebra case. Okay. And for my conclusion is, accomplishing Raspberry Pi weather station project was a great learning experience to me. By using this project from now on up, I can be able to monitor the weather condition here in my neighborhood. And to finish up my presentation, special thanks to you, Mr. Ko, for taking a challenging action back on November month to provide all the needed materials and tools to us and all the ESYS, the other ESYS students in order to fulfill this spring semester. And yeah, thank you so much for taking that action on that day. So basically that's all what I have.
Great presentation there, Karima. Absolutely fantastic presentation. Very thorough project. So very, very exciting to see all of the results that you were able to demonstrate. That's fantastic. Are there any questions that any of the teammates happen to have with respect to Karima's project? Any questions or comments from Josh or from Kevin or from Ed?
The arrow pointing up and down instead of the scrolling text?
No, actually, I was playing actually last week to do that, and then I accidentally ran into through programming issues. This error made me to format everything and then reboot everything again and install everything again. So I was trying to find a way how to remove these errors and just make letters or just two, like for temperature, just two numbers, but I could not do that. So, and then I just left it like arrows pointing up and down.
Yeah, because when I was reading the Sunset API, it doesn't like any sort of more than one variable when you pass it through as a LED message.
Yeah, yeah.